Welcome to Magic Pillow. Tonight's story is The Midnight Clock Mystery. Ethan was a quiet boy who lived in a very loud world. During the day, the streets were filled with honking cars, shouting voices, and the constant hum of machines. But Ethan was different. He loved the soft sounds that most people ignored, the rustle of a turning page or the pitter-patter of rain on the roof. His absolute favorite place was his bedroom at night. In the corner of the hallway, just outside his door, stood a tall, ancient grandfather clock made of dark, polished wood. To Ethan, this wasn't just a clock, it was a friend. It had a golden face that shimmered in the dark and a long pendulum that swung back and forth like a slow, happy dance. Every night, as Ethan tucked himself under his heavy blankets, he would listen. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The sound was steady and strong, like a friendly giant's heartbeat. It was a rhythm that promised everything was okay. It was the only sound that could truly help his busy mind find peace. Ethan would close his eyes and imagine the clock counting down the seconds until he reached dreamland. He felt safe knowing that while he slept, the giant's heartbeat would keep watch over the house. But tonight, something felt different. The air was colder, and the moonlight seemed to hang heavier in the room. Ethan watched the clock's hands creep closer and closer to the top. Just as the two hands met at exactly midnight, the world went cold. The steady tick-tock suddenly cut off. The pendulum froze in mid-swing. The house became so quiet that Ethan could hear his own breath. For the first time in his life, the giant's heart had stopped beating. Ethan sat up, his heart thumping in the sudden quiet. He had never heard a silence this deep. When he looked out his window, he saw a moth frozen midair, its wings perfectly still. It felt as if the whole world had pressed a pause button. Suddenly, a shimmer caught his eye. A thin line of silver light was leaking from behind the clock's glass door. It looked like liquid moonlight, swirling across the floor. Ethan climbed out of bed, his feet making no sound as he followed the glow into the hallway. The light wasn't scary, it felt warm, like a soft hug. As Ethan reached the clock, the hallway transformed. The dark shadows turned into shimmering patterns of stars. He realized the clock wasn't broken, it was full of magic. The golden hands were stuck at exactly 12, but inside, the heavy gears had vanished. In their place was a swirling cloud of stardust. The air hummed with a gentle vibration, like a cat's purr. It felt as if the silence was waiting for him to say something. Ethan stood before the glowing clock, feeling a strange kind of bravery. Usually, he kept his thoughts locked tight inside, but the silver light made him feel safe. He leaned in close to the glass, the stardust swirling faster as he moved. "I'm worried about the big spelling test tomorrow," he whispered into the stillness. As soon as the words left his lips, something amazing happened. The silver light flared brightly, turning a warm, sunset gold. Ethan felt a heavy weight lift off his chest, as if the clock had reached out and taken his worry away. He realized that in this still time, his voice was the only thing that moved. The clock wasn't just pausing the world, it was listening. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel like a quiet boy who was invisible. He felt like someone whose words truly mattered. The golden glow wrapped around him like a warm blanket. He told the clock about the boy who was mean on the playground and how he missed his grandma. With every secret he shared, the light grew steadier and calmer. The silence wasn't lonely anymore, it was his best friend. The next morning, the clock was ticking just like always. Tick, tock, tick, tock. To anyone else, it looked like a normal Tuesday, but Ethan felt a secret spark of joy inside. He moved through his day at school with a calm smile, knowing that the still time was waiting for him. When midnight arrived again, Ethan didn't even have to wait. Exactly at the stroke of 12, the gears froze and the silver light flooded his room. He realized this wasn't a one-time accident. The clock was giving him a gift, a special moment every night where the noisy world couldn't reach him. He began to look forward to midnight more than anything else. Each night, he would sit by the clock and talk about his day. He spoke about his hopes, like wanting to learn to paint, and his little fears, like the dark corners of the basement. The clock never judged him, it just glowed with its soft, stardust light. Ethan noticed that the more he spoke his truth, the brighter the silver light became. It was as if his honesty was the fuel that kept the magic alive. He wasn't just a boy in a dark hallway anymore, he was a storyteller in a room made of stars, and he finally felt understood. One Friday, everything seemed to go wrong. Ethan dropped his lunch, he tripped during recess, and a group of older kids laughed at his quiet voice. By the time he got home, he felt like a balloon that had lost all its air. The world felt too loud, too fast, and far too unkind. He tried to hide his sadness at dinner, but his heart felt heavy, like it was filled with stones. He crawled into bed early, staring at the ceiling and waiting for the sun to go down. He didn't want to be brave anymore, he just wanted the noise in his head to stop. As the moon climbed high, Ethan watched the clock's hands move. For the first time, He felt nervous. Would the clock still listen if he was this sad? Would the light still shine if he had nothing happy to say? He held his breath as the final seconds of the day ticked away. Click! Midnight arrived. The ticking stopped, and the silence rushed in. Slowly, a tiny, pale silver light began to peek out from the clock. It was dimmer than usual, flickering like a tired candle, as if it could feel exactly how tired Ethan was. Ethan walked slowly toward the clock, his shadow long and shaky on the wall. He stood in the dim, flickering silver light and felt tears sting his eyes. He didn't want to talk about school or spelling tests tonight. He wanted to talk about something much bigger. "I don't think I'm brave enough for the world," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Everyone else is so loud and strong, and I'm just me. I feel like I have to pretend to be someone else just to fit in." As soon as he admitted his deepest secret, the flickering light stopped shaking. It surged with a powerful, brilliant blue and silver glow. The stardust inside the clock began to swirl into a beautiful, spinning galaxy. Ethan felt a wave of peace wash over him, cooler and fresher than a spring breeze. The clock didn't give him a lecture or tell him to be louder. Instead, the golden pendulum moved just an inch, making a sound like a soft chime. It was telling him that his quiet heart was exactly what the world needed. Ethan realized that being honest was the bravest thing he had ever done. Ethan stayed by the clock for a long time, bathed in that brilliant blue glow. He realized the clock didn't stop because it was broken, and it didn't glow just to be pretty. It stopped to give him a place to put his heavy thoughts so he didn't have to carry them alone. He watched the stardust dance behind the glass. He understood now that everyone has a quiet voice inside, but the world is often too noisy to hear it. The clock was a bridge between his heart and the rest of the world. By sharing his truth, he was making his heart lighter and his spirit stronger. "Thank you," Ethan whispered. He felt a sudden surge of confidence. He didn't need to shout to be heard, and he didn't need to be loud to be brave. Being brave meant being honest with himself. The golden hands of the clock began to shimmer, preparing to move once more. He knew that tomorrow would still have loud cars and busy hallways, but it wouldn't feel so scary anymore. He carried the silver light inside of him now. As the magic began to fade back into the wooden frame, Ethan felt ready to face the morning with a brand new kind of strength. As the final glow of the silver light tucked itself back into the clock, the pendulum gave one last, musical sway. Tick-tock. The giant's heartbeat returned, sounding stronger and friendlier than ever before. Ethan walked back to his bed, his feet feeling light, as if he were walking on clouds. He pulled his blankets up to his chin and listened to the steady rhythm in the hallway. He wasn't afraid of the dark corners or the busy day ahead. He knew that no matter how loud the world became, he would always have a quiet place inside himself where his truths were safe. Ethan fell into the deepest, most peaceful sleep of his life. He didn't dream of monsters or tests, he dreamed of stars and silver light. Downstairs, the morning sun began to peek through the curtains, and the birds of Oak Haven started their morning song, welcoming a boy who finally knew his own value. The mystery of the midnight clock taught Ethan that we all need a moment to pause. When we share our true feelings, even in a whisper, our hearts feel lighter and the world feels a little brighter. Remember, you don't have to be the loudest to be the bravest. Your quiet heart is your greatest magic. The story has ended, and the night is calm. Thank you for joining us on Magic Pillow. Snuggle up, close your eyes, and let your dreams take you to magical places. Sweet dreams, and good night.